So good evening, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Christopher Algara, and I'm a professor in the Department Chair of Engineering here at Middlesex Community College. I wanted to kick off the event by thanking our panelists for being here with us tonight. I know their schedules is very busy, and the fact that they make some space for us make us really happy. Thanks for sharing with our community tonight. So I also want to thank all of you for taking, the time. I know that the semester, we're in the middle of the semester, everybody's busy, but, by seeing this room filled with the students is something that makes all of us very happy. We run this event every year for your success, and that's basically what motivates all of us here at Middlesex, faculty, staff, and administrators. I also want to thank our college authority. We have our provost, Arlene Rodriguez, our Dean of STEM, Marquis, and our Dean of Education, Russell Walworth. And frankly, I want also to thank every faculty member and staff who are here with us today. It's amazing how these events bring all of us together. Like I said, faculty, staff, and administrators to make these kind of things happening. This initiative is what promotes student success, and it's all for you. All right. I also want to take the time to explain the dynamics of the event. It's very, it's a conversation that we're having here tonight. We're here to hear from our panelists. They will have some time to share their stories. This story involves like their education, their career path, any obstacles and things that brought you to who you are nowadays. All right. Then after they all share their stories, we will open up the floor for questions. Our Q&A session might be between 30 or 40 minutes, and then we will try to be out by 8 o'clock. I'm pretty sure everybody, had a long day. But anyways, I just want to say thank you to all of you. All right, I'm going to start with Mr. Douglas Marquis, and I will start passing the microphone along. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Nice to see all of you. I get to shake a few hands, and I will try to shake more. I will be here after if you want to talk. My opening remarks will be short to give you more time for questions. A little bit of self-introduction, who am I, and then a little bit about my career in engineering. My undergraduate was at UMass Amherst in mathematics with a minor in physics, and I did graduate education at MIT in electrical engineering. One piece of advice for you to understand is degrees never go away. You will lose cars, dogs, pets, houses, if you're unlucky, relationships, jobs, but those degrees almost always stay with you. So seek them and try to keep them. The biggest things that I got out of my undergraduate education were not so much mathematics and physics, but the ability to learn quickly, the ability to work hard, and the ability to think clearly. If you get those three things, you have succeeded, and you can cross and do whatever you want. If you have failed at one of those, you will spend time cleaning it up. At the time I got out of my undergraduate, I chose to go into what at the time was called high-tech engineering, and I started at MIT Lincoln Laboratory, where I applied my skills that I learned in mathematics to doing engineering for laser satellite communications, shooting laser beams between satellites, trying to get a lot of data through them. And it doesn't sound like a lot of data today, but I'm sure you got it at the time, but it was. My career progression went from individual contributor up through team lead and then into management. And that's another piece of advice for you as you think about your futures. Think about whether you want to stay technical side and doing engineering and making engineering decisions, or whether you want to go into leadership skills, because some of the business classes that I took as an undergraduate, it turns out, helped me out somewhere in those cases. Another piece that I think might be relevant, although I've been associated with MIT for 41 years, I was out twice, once to do a startup and once as a government employee And I think your generation, much more than mine, will have to move around in jobs more. And so think about that balance. You don't want to be either a person who can't keep a job for more than 6 months, nor do you want to be somebody who is so entrenched that you stay 15 years when none of your peers are, and it limits your opportunities. Huge amount of what I did as I moved through leadership was conflict management. And as engineers or aspiring engineers, it's important that you understand that conflict management has two big components, and one is technical and the other is personal. You will need to be good people to be able to manage through difficult employees or someone who has an entrenched position. But also as engineers, it's important that you understand that there's almost always 3 ways to do anything. And when someone is explaining to you there's only one way, my way or the highway, as engineers, you owe to your people that you're reporting to the ability to manage through and say, no, there's 3 ways, and we can talk about which are which and come to a joint best conclusion. So those trades are important. And the last thing I'll leave you with is, I'm never going to be a CEO of a corporation or the President of the United States or something like that, and that's okay. I am trying to get to my highest and best use, whatever that is. And I've only failed if I somehow fall below that, but there was something higher I could have aspired to and didn't try. So try. Try, go a little too far once in a while, fall on your face once a year, and don't worry about it. If your nose gets bloody, that's just life. And with that, I will yield the microphone.
And with that, this is me getting my nose bloody. So I graduated from Middlesex 2 years ago from the CAD program. I wanted to get into drafting and doing art on the computer. That was kind of my whole goal. And I also really loved blueprints. That is that simple for me. So I wanted to get into drawing blueprints. So I took the CAD program. It went well, and I found a bunch of programs that I'm sure you're familiar with, and one specifically stood out to me, Revit. I loved how it worked. I kept digging into it offline, off of school projects. There's a lot you can discover in applications, and now I got set up with a career in MEP, FP, building system design. So I create blueprints all day, every day. I work very closely with my teammates and with architects. We're consultants for the architects. But we build the bones of a building. And for me, that makes a big impact in the environment. One of the worst contributors to greenhouse gases is building systems. So I wanted to make an impact in that. And that's really what our company is highly focused on, is doing sustainable building system design. So I'm very fortunate to have gotten into kind of a dream job right out of college, but for me it was important to focus on being prepared. That's still very key today. And then my communication skills, working interpersonal skills. I was in healthcare before changing careers, and interpersonal skills were a big part of that, just talking to people who have a hard time understanding. So I had to develop those skills, and that transferred over into engineering, so communication is a big thing. If you're wondering if you should take a public speaking class, do it. I never did, I wish I did. But yeah, I think just a good example of, I was in your position, quite literally, I was in the back seat like 2 years ago, asking questions and just trying to get my foot in the door. I wanted to be an engineer and just get in the engineering field and do it through drawing and building systems. So got to do that, and I hope that sets a good example for, if you set your mind on something and go after it, ask the right questions, talk to the right people, you can do it. You'll be out there doing it.
so hopefully everyone can hear me. But hi everybody, my name is Valente. I don't want it to sound like a resume, but I don't have anything prepared, so I'll just give you that first. So I graduated with my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Merrimack College, so right up the street, really. And that was in 2019, and with a minor in math. I love mathematics.
Yes!
Yep, math rules. And then after that, I decided to pursue graduate study at the University of Massachusetts Lowell, where I did my master's in mechanical engineering, but I kind of focused on vibrations, dynamics, and controls. And then I did my PhD there, and I just finished up in February of this year. So, just like you, right? I've been just like you, I've been in school my whole life, so this is like my first really like, oh, wow, I get to sit back. And then 6 months later, I decided to pick up again, and then I decided to teach back at Merrimack. I'm teaching dynamics there, so I think one piece of advice I'd give people is just be a lifelong learner, right? Just because you have a piece of paper, I think it goes a long way, but it also doesn't prevent you, right, from learning more. I try to tell people, like, getting a PhD is like, you know a lot about a little, right? So if you took salt, right, and spilled it on the table, I probably know a lot about one speckle or one grain of salt, right? But there's still so much salt left on the table, right? So try to like have that view or mindset, right, that education isn't finite, right? There's so many different things to explore. And then currently, I also have a full-time job. I work at Systems and Technology Research, which is a defense contractor in Woburn, and I'm a senior signal processing researcher there, so I do a little bit of radar signal processing, so tracking things in the air. I do a little bit of computer vision, machine learning, some hot topics currently apply right now, but those are going towards defense systems. And outside of that, I try to have a personal life too. That's one thing I'm working on, right? Develop a work-life balance. I would encourage you to do that too, right? Make sure that you schedule in time for everything. So that's a little bit about me, but I'll pass the line.
Everyone, my name is Barry. So I graduated from MCC like 2 years ago, or actually 3 years. It was fall 2020. I'm originally from Egypt. I came here like 5 years ago. Was 2 years of electric engineer from over there. I transferred and I had the opportunity to become a student over here and transfer all the material. I graduated with science. Engineering science. After that, I transferred to UMass Lowell, and I had a bachelor's degree in electric engineering. I took the bachelor's degree in 1 year over there. So this was a lot of classes in 1 year. The way I did it, it was by setting up my priorities and organizing my classes. And all my work, they asked me like how you did it. It's not about I didn't choose this career because I want to do like working as an engineer. This is my passion. This is what I love. So I was choosing the stuff I love. So that's what made me like going back and going like further and achieving this. So the first thing you need to achieve anything, you have to have your career, like the goal clear, so you can achieve it. For me, I love to be inventor. I like to invent everything and fix stuff. So that's what makes me go in this field, because the electric engineer has a lot of opportunities to invent stuff and have become their own entrepreneur. So that's what I love. I want to share a little bit about the stuff that helped me like taking a lot of classes and like getting like 3.1 GPA in 1 year from UMass Lowell. It was two stuff. The first thing, you have to understand what the subject is about. Reading the syllabus is the most important thing. Understanding that, and know how is the class being like determined, like pointed with like exams or or homeworks or quizzes, so you understand how you do well in this exam. The second, in this class, the second thing, you have to do like a vision board. For myself, I did like 3 vision boards. One, it's I call it the weekly vision board. The weekly vision board, you put all the due dates of the classes that you have, so you know like by the end of the week you have to finish this. The second thing is the daily one. The daily one is based on the weekly vision board. You put everything you have to finish on the same day. And the last one is the monthly. You need to see what is the exams you have and report that its due date, so you know how to prepare good for it. So one thing I always learned about like going to college is college doesn't define you. Like in college, you learn more about yourself and who you are. Who you like. It's not something you're gonna do for work. It's something you're gonna be your lifestyle. So that's what you have to put in mind when you're doing that. Also, the last thing I want to tell you, like how I did it. Also, it was all about trusting God that He has like a good path for you, and He gonna go with you and make you like succeed and achieve all of your goals. Yeah, so I just want to say like it's a human nature to worry whenever you have like you have trouble in class, or you get disappointed if you fail in a class or stuff like that, and this is normal. But don't let this define you. Let it redirect you and shape you to put you in the right path and become like become who you want to be. Because at the end, it doesn't matter like what you do. It's just as long as you're good human, and you trust in God. It doesn't matter if you want the whole world and you lost yourself. So focus on being like really good in what you do and what you love, and make really good friendship. This is really good in college. Thank you everyone for having me.
I'm gonna have a hard time topping being a good person. That's a good general thing to. It's really good advice, good friendships, which you'll gain in your time. So my name is Jared Peterson. I'm currently an assistant professor of practice over at Merrimack College. Merrimack College alum, bachelor's 2016, master's 2017. I got to know Nick pretty well, as he was one of my students when I TA'd, so you never know who you're going to run into. There's some good advice. In 5.5 or 6 years being out of school, I've been in 3 different general industries, public, private, and now academia. And the amount of people who cross paths from over here to over here would surprise you. So that kind of leads into a big topic of building good relationships and networking. These are skills that are more, some folks up here talked about interpersonal skills and being a good communicator, and oftentimes if you're a leader, you've got really good communication skills. So I would definitely focus on cultivating relationships. You never know what might transpire, so just getting out there, getting engaged. I got out of Merrimack College. I went into, I knew right what I wanted. So I did my bachelor's degree, stuck around, did my master's degree in 1 year, so it was like a 4+1 program. And I knew right out of the gate I wanted to be a bridge engineer. So structural engineer, nested under civil, I wanted a bridge engineer. So here I am, May of 2017. All right, got my master's degree, let's go. Couldn't find a job. Couldn't find a job because I knew I wanted this very specific thing. I had interviewed a few different places, and for various reasons, like, thanks, we ended up going with someone else, and that's kind of a bummer, right? Right around March, I said, all right, I gotta put the job search on hold, focus on getting my master's degree, because a lot of sleepless nights, I'm not coming back here another semester to crank out one more class, let's get it done. So I got it done, and throughout that summer, all right, I graduated, I've been working my butt off, and now get to relax a little, but I'm still looking for a job. The job I ended up getting, that I worked at for 4.5 years, was a job that I had interviewed back in April, that they said, hey, sorry, we're going with someone else. I reached back out to them in August, said, hey, I'm still looking. Does anything come up? And they're like, stay tuned. 2 weeks later, I get an email saying, we have another opening. So you don't know, don't get too proud to reach back out to someone and say, hey, I know you already said no, but if there are additional opportunities, let me know. And they had already interviewed me, and they said, hey, this is an easy decision. I later found out that they went with someone because that person had an offer elsewhere that they kind of pinned it against them, and they had to make a decision. Do not be too proud to say, hey, I know you said no, but do you have anything else? So, worked in bridge engineering, loved my job, a lot of 2 years in downtown Boston, 1.5 commutes one way, that was a little rough, but built a really good network. A lot of technical design folks down there. Transferred to the Manchester, New Hampshire office, same company called HDR. I did bridge engineering up there. Same company, same position, just different office. Great, built a new network of people, a new relationship group that you could still cultivate and work with while maintaining that other one. So you're running into lots of different people who have lots of different experiences. That was a really good, challenging time because it's, you're all working very hard right now, right? I'm sure lots of you are short on sleep, but you are pursuing this goal of being an engineer, going into a technical field. So when you get into industry, you will still have some of those challenging long nights as you're working on something. Building that work ethic is crucial, and I think that was mentioned up here, the grind, right? You want to be a successful engineer. It's a colleague of mine say, it's all about the stick-to-itiveness, right? It's can you grind it out? If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So keep up the good work. It served me well, and I'm fortunate enough to end up back where I got my degree. I had a pit stop at New Hampshire DOT for about 8 months. I went from HDR, I went to New Hampshire DOT for about 8 months. And I was enjoying that, different change of pace, right, public sector. And then I saw this job opportunity come up on Merrimack's page. It was like engineering lab instructor. And I was heavily involved as an alumni in their extracurricular group. They were building their steel bridge group. It's an engineering competition that takes place that we offer. And I can't make this up. I'm at the competition, shooting the breeze with some of the faculty who went down, and I'm chatting with the chair. They say, what is this position? Oh, well, it's this. We're trying to get someone to help focus in the lab, blah, blah, blah. Are you interested? Well, maybe, blah, blah, blah. And then sure enough, 1 month later, I get the text that says, hey, if you want to apply, you should apply. Go through the whole rigmarole, and they offered me the position. So you never know where life is going to take you. The way I viewed that, and this gets onto another motif, don't be afraid to try things. So the way I looked at it was, all right, here's an opportunity to go into academia. I don't have a PhD. I have a master's degree. I said, you know what? Let me try this. Worst comes to worst, I do it for 2 years, and then I leave, and I'm 30 years old and a licensed engineer still. I can figure it out, right? So better now, while I was younger, than when I was, later in life, had a family, etc. I said, let me try this. Let me give this a go. And I'm exhausted, but I love it. So you never really know how things will unfold. Key bits of advice. That's kind of my story and where I got to. Key bits of advice. You are very much responsible for blazing the direction you want to go. You are learning lots of skills right now that will be extremely transferable. The problem solving, the hard work, the technical competency. All of those are extremely important skills that will help you pursue whatever you want. Here's the key. Drive the direction you want to go. So opportunities may present themselves. It's up to you to say, all right, this is something I want to go after. Let me go after it. Get the ball rolling in a direction. Say, you know what, I've tried this for a year, year and a half, right? As mentioned, maybe you want to stay a little bit more than a couple of months if you're trying something, but give it a go. If it's not working, try something else. Do not wait for things to just unfold and fall into your lap. Right? Opportunities present themselves. How you engage in the community is an extremely important component of that. You start cultivating relationships and learning about different opportunities that you like. So I was heavily involved at Merrimack College when I was a student because I loved the school, it served me well. I enjoyed working with students, which is sort of how I figured out I'm probably going to end up back here someday. And Nick's laughing because he knew, like, we knew this was going to happen. But just do not be afraid to drive the direction you want to go. And some of you may be saying, I don't know what that is. That's totally fine. If you try something for 6 months, a year, and you realize I don't like it, now you know. Now you know, you course correct and say, all right, that's not going to work, let's try this. So it's very sort of rare to just have the perfect thing present itself to you. You kind of have to figure it out as you go. You know, my last thing I'll leave you with is, remember, you know, I'm a teacher now, so I try to, some wise words here. Lean on each other for help as you're going through your courses, right? This is hard. It's a hard curriculum. Lean on each other for help. Use the resources available at this institution to help you get through your courses and work together. And also remember, turn back around to the person behind you to help them, because no one got through an engineering degree without help. And if they did, they're lying to you. This is hard. Keep up the good work. I appreciate you all coming out. We have some really good information up here. I echo everything that everybody said up here. So keep up the hard work. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for such an amazing stories from each one of you. And now we're going to open up for questions. So you can ask a question to the panel as a whole, or you can ask a question to one of the individuals. And for our panelists, any one of you can answer, or all of you can answer. So who wants to go first? Oh, Alicia.
I was just wondering which bridges you worked on. If any of us might have driven over one of them or walked over one.
No, that's a good question. Trying to think around here. I inspected a bridge over, that was on route, the Lowell Connector, maybe you've heard of it. I did an inspection on Industrial Ave, there's a roundabout. There's a bridge that goes over that roundabout, which, by the way, fun fact, there's a difference between a rotary and a roundabout. It's not just from those who are from Boston who call it a rotary. They're different things. So I can talk to you about it at length if you're curious. So probably those in Lowell, but I did a lot of bridge work up in New Hampshire once I moved up there. So kind of different things, a lot of design work. So I may have worked on a bridge that hasn't been built yet. That's very possible. So around here, though, probably Lowell's probably the best bet.
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, I just want to ask a general question to you guys. So how was it to transition from going into all that you learned in school into putting it into like into the real world, like having studied all this things that have a procedure and that have a certain amount of rules to a world that has so many variables, like what do you think will be like the differences or those challenges there to actually this actually works like this in the real world?
I can take that first. Okay, so I think you might get varying answers based on who you ask on the panel. So I'll lead with that. But for me, I love the nooks and crannies of mathematics, the physics, the procedures that go along with each problem set. But once you learn those base tools, you're put into the real world, and it's kind of like you're in the jungle. It's like, all right, yeah, you have all these tools in your toolbox, right, but how are you going to survive, right? How are you going to solve the next problem? So I kind of use it as like a guide, in a sense. It's kind of like my own mental dictionary. It's like, oh, it's back there. Some things I use more than others, right? But for my job specifically, I'm in really a think tank with like 3 other people, and we solve like physics problems most of the day. So that's kind of what my job is, but I think based on who you ask, it might vary. Yeah, so that's me.
I'll add on to that. I'll just take a second to add on to that. Looking back, the best piece of advice I have for you or anybody going into industry, or just the next step of their career, you've built these tools that will help you. Pretend like you know nothing. Ask questions. If you are showing up at a job and you are not asking questions on a somewhat regular basis, your supervisor's gonna be like, they haven't said much, right? They know you've got tools in your tool belt, you come out with a degree, but they wanna ensure that you are doing the legwork to get the task done. So show, hey, you gave me this task, I've gotten to this point, I'm stuck here, can you push me in the right direction? Do not just presume a task you've been assigned is gonna go away. You might not hear about it for a week or two. Someone's gonna come back and say, hey, remember that thing I gave you? You're gonna be like, oh, I didn't know that you wanted that still, I hadn't heard from you. They're gonna wanna know about it. So ask the questions. That's my biggest advice to anyone going into industry. Ask the questions, show that you are trying to get to the direction, the deliverable, excuse me, that you're trying to get to the deliverable they're looking for. That's my biggest piece of advice coming right now.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, earlier on when you were mentioning about like examining like the air with CAD, can you give a bit more? Can you give a bit more detail? Is it like a drone?
Examining the air.
Yeah. Whoever earlier was mentioning about like checking the air or something.
So with the air pollution, it's just a motivator in me getting into, building system design. But we don't actually go out and we do, air measurements or anything like that. We're more focused on in-building, how that functions, and making it the most efficient it can be.
On another term, for any of the presenters, has the CAD internship changed your life in any way for the better?
I'd like to say I was at this same panel a few years ago, and I met the town engineer of Chelmsford and ended up in an internship with her. So that internship really was life-changing. I do suggest getting into internships. That put the environmental focus in my brain. So yeah, I do think internships are worth it.
How many people here are thinking about internships? Wrong, that should be everybody. That should be everybody. All of them.
Oh, it's so true.
How do you balance internships, regular life, school, and relationships while maintaining physical and mental stability?
I'll let you know as soon as I figure that out.
Just find the hours when they're there, just for, day by day.
I will say this. Don't neglect your bodies, which is the first easiest thing when the pressures of a job, and a family, and kids, and aging all come down on you. Get out there and run, go to the gym, do something. Don't become what so many Americans have allowed themselves to be.
So I think I fall into this trap a lot. So I find myself overworking to the extreme where it's like I can't take my foot off the gas, and I find myself almost like blaming me, like if I'm just hanging out with my friends or I'm like doing something social or sitting down on the couch and watching football on a Sunday, like everybody else. I'm like, oh, I could be doing X, Y, Z. I could be doing this. I could be doing lecture prep, and then you have to kind of do some self-reflection. It's like a feedback loop, right? It's like, oh no, there's error here, right? Like you just need to relax. So I think it's really, really important because there's a good analogy. If anyone's read like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. Yeah. So one of my favorite examples is like, they're sawing a tree, right? And his friend is like, what are you sawing at, dumb? Like, you know what I mean? He's like, just let me saw. I'm sawing. And he's like, your saw is dull, right? So what you realize is you keep going, you think you're doing a lot, but you could be doing actually like nothing, right? You need to resharpen your saw. I usually get that itch when it takes me like too long to do a really basic task at work or during teaching. I'm like, yeah, I need a mental reset. So yeah, resharpen the saw. I'll leave it with that.
Know the difference, or try to figure out, and I am doing this too. Know the difference between movement and progress, right? It's easy to be busy all the time, but what tangible difference is happening? Like what are you moving towards? Easier said than done, but just keep that in mind, right? Always take a 10,000 foot view, take a step back and say, all right, what is this helping me get to? To go off the comment made earlier about prioritizing your body and just physical well-being. A colleague of mine told a story. He used to work in industry, and he was at a consulting firm, and there was a grind with the deliverables. Got to get the deliverable out, the deliverable, right? Without fail, like clockwork, his supervisor, who was the principal, the head person of this company, would take an hour-and-a-half lunch break and go swimming. Every day. We're a week behind. We're going to lose some money. Always to go swimming. Guy was in about his 60s, taking care of himself, and what the reality is, the sad reality is, your company will move on. So if something happens to you, God forbid, and you find yourself in a situation where you have prioritized your career above your physical and mental health, hey, we're really sorry, but we got profits to make. We're gonna get someone else. Which, again, I'm not trying to sound cynical, but understand that there are pecking orders to the important aspects of your life and know where those priorities are. For a lot of people, it's family, number one, right? Family, friends, physical well-being, and then, work falls in there. But just try to have some level of hierarchy.
Yeah, so, yeah, I was gonna say this, 1 second. I was just gonna add something. It's gonna sound a little bit selfish, but know how to say you no. So whenever someone wants you to do extra job and this time you plan it for yourself, you can say no. Yourself is better.
Yes. So I was interested why you chose the type of field. You said you wanted to save the environment, but there's many fields in architecture that, does that job. Why that line?
Yeah, so the impact to the environment really comes from the building systems, not so much the building itself. It's not the people in the building, it's the systems in the building. So that really, for me though, it was just, I like the blueprints, I like buildings, and I did want to become an architect, I did want to pursue that, but it turned out to be a lucrative career path in MEP. For me, I work with architects versus having to be in the weeds and doing everything. A lot. Architects do a lot. So for me, it's more lucrative to be in a consulting position. There's a lot of consultants around architects. They need a lot of help. There's a huge team designing buildings.
What practices did you do to not let your grades define who you are?
So for that, to know what is your value. So your value is not in what you do, it's for who you are. So we're an image of God, so we have to know that no matter what you do, our value comes from God. We are shaped in His image, so your value is in you because He is in you. So no matter what happens, say you drop out of school or something, life sometimes, like last year, a lot of stuff happened in my life and a lot of doors closed and a lot of dreams get shattered. But keeping your faith in God, that's what gonna get you through it. He gonna like when I said he's gonna redirect your life, sometimes like a lot of doors close in my life. But after that, I stayed like unemployed for 10 months. Yeah, I got fired and I got broke up from my fiance in the same month. And I stayed like 10 months without a job. After that, I kept my trust in him, and 3 months ago, I found a girl, and from the second I saw her, I know she's the one. 3 days after, I got an interview. I'm now working night shift. 10 days ago, I proposed to her, and you never know. Just keep trusting in him. He has a better plan for you. It's gonna work out. Believe me. Just keep trusting.
Thank you for that question. I think for a year, perhaps two, when you enter a working environment of more than 10 people, your grade point average may matter. After that, nobody cares. I already know who you are because I've watched for 2 years, and I don't care what the professor thought about how you did on your homework assignments. If you did well, working for me, did what I asked you, and for those of you who have the opportunity, take one of Professor Algara's assignments and go just a little bit more than what he asked you to do and show him that, and maybe ask him for some extra credit. Because if you have done those things for me for 2 years, you think I'm looking back, if you're not doing well and saying, well, she got a 3.9, she must be awesome. Or looking back and saying she was a 2.1, even though she's awesome, she's a 2.1, I just can't work with it. Nobody cares.
Yeah, exactly. No one cares. Wait, is this on? All right, cool. I can project. Wait, let's see. Oh, I think the battery's low.
All right.
Yeah. That's okay. I can project.
You're a mechanic.
I'm loud. Yeah, so no, I think that's a really important point, right? No one cares. And I think, right, in a sense, once you're in the job, right, GPA gets you in the door, for sure. I think it definitely gets you in the door. But I'm not gonna like pull punches either. I've learned a lot from people who have gone to universities that are lower ranked, that have an XYZ GPA. Oh, I had to take calculus 3 times. Doesn't matter to me. You helped me solve my problem, right? So I think it's one thing, never, I guess, neglect where the message is coming from. Like, just be open to all solutions. And even myself, right? Like, oh, you went to graduate school for 4+ years plus your bachelor's. You must know it all. Nope. I took an exam, my first exam of graduate school, I got like a 68. I was like, here we go. Hey, yep, this isn't Merrimack anymore, right? And then you realize, right, you have the tools to be successful. And I learned, right, Professor Algara and Jared, they know, they were my TAs. I was in their office every day. I was pounding down the door. I didn't care. I became their best friend. I was beating them to their office, right? No joke. And I would sit there and wait and hunt.
Sometimes without knocking.
True. I would just barge right in. Yep. But I was really curious on getting it right. And I think that's, you gotta have the fight, right? You can be fallible, but you gotta want it. And I think that goes a long way.
I want to jump off of what you just said. So, grades defining who you are. I'm a professor. Forget grades. Did you do all that you can do? Can you take a step back and sincerely ask the question, okay, I didn't do well, but did I throw everything I could at this? Right? At that point in time, obviously, we're talking earlier about the balancing of personal life and health and all of those things. While balancing those things, but maybe even sometimes slightly sacrificing those, did you throw everything you could at it? That's what matters. You can always take the class again, or you can always say, you know what, it's not for me. But can you look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, I threw everything I could at it. And one of the things, first day of Intro to Engineering, that's one of the courses I teach, I tell my students, I say, you are gonna work with someone who has to work a fifth as hard as you do to get twice the better grade. Forget it. Do it for yourself. Right, like I didn't get all A's. I got a few C's. I got a few C's in calculus. Right, it didn't define me. just keep on driving and understand, say, hey, I did all that I could do. I'll try again, or you know what, I'm gonna go pursue something else. Just make sure that you are able to be at ease, knowing that you learned what you could learn and that you have taken away something from it. That's what's important.
And to go on Jared's point too, so Jared taught me my first year of undergrad, he was like, know when to cut your losses, right? Sometimes your best is just gonna be a B, and that's okay, right? Like that's, you can live with that. You can go home, you can sleep, right? Just cut your losses. At some point you've gotta get to the point where this is all I can do, and sometimes that's enough.
I had a faculty who was my professor tell me that, then I told him that, and then I told some other students that again today. So it's a universal message, right? Like we all want you to do all the work, but understand that sometimes life happens and you have to make the decision.
Also, I'd like to add, I actually dropped out of school and I came back to do the engineering program. So I had a really bad GPA coming back into school, and then I graduated with a 4.0. So it was really the drive of wanting to, just putting the just like the focus on my goal at the end. Of, I wanted a degree because they last forever, and it was for myself. So yeah, just doing it for yourself and yeah. So grades don't matter. No one has asked me about my GPA ever. I did that almost for nothing, but degree at the end.
Hello. So, question I had was just about one of the problems I seem to be having with certain projects as it goes on. You're working on something, and even if you care about it an awful lot, you're interested in whatever you're working on, and even when you're working in a group, you end up coming to a point where, well, you get burnt out, or you get to a part which isn't as interesting to you, no matter how much you care about the project. As you've worked on more projects, done more, has it become easier to get over that kind of burnout? I'm already seeing some answers there. Have you managed to develop any good ways to try to get around it if you can't avoid it at all? And also, congratulations on the engagement. Thank you.
That's tough.
So just stay disciplined, sometimes it's hard, but you have to keep going, A lot of projects here, they put you in project, you don't know anything about it, but you have to figure it out. That's what you learn in college. Sometimes you go in a class you don't know anything, and you feel like all of your friends know everything, but you left out. So it's not about you, it's just you need to figure it out and get to the point, and you're gonna succeed in it. Even if you couldn't, being like you don't know much in this class doesn't mean like you're a failure. You're good in something else. So just keep in mind that.
So a part of your question, if I understand it right, is how do you deal with, there's kind of two parts to it, right? It's how do you deal with the burnout, and then how do you deal with maybe it's not becoming interesting? Do I have that right?
How you would deal with the burnout, and has it become easier to as you go on?
As you progress in your career, you will become more knowledgeable in the work that you're doing. So that snowball effect of what I mentioned earlier, ask questions, right? Lean on people who have the expertise. You will start to build some momentum in the skill set that you need for your job, right? Or the task that's being asked. When you get to the point where you are struggling with, okay, is this, I'm struggling with this because I don't find it interesting, maybe, look, you're going to have tasks in your jobs that you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it, right? There is no job that exists where you don't have those, right? I love what I do, and there are parts of the job I'm going to choose, right? But that is can you balance that? Is that far less? Are those things occurring far less? And say, all right, maybe those occur 5 to 10% of the time, where 90% of the time this job is awesome. And then when you start to realize that you are starting to exceed that, this is becoming a problem where you have way more instances of, I'm just not enjoying this. That goes back to the be a driver of what you want to do. So, one, does the burnout get easier? Yes and no, right? Yes, in the sense that you're building skills that can help you with your career and becoming more of an expert in that area. I laughed, like the first year of work, first 6 months of work, like just exponentially more focused than what your engineering degrees are in, right? You have an engineering degree, you've learned a lot of skills on how to solve problems, but the job that you are at at least 40 hours, usually for a lot of us, like 50 or 55, depending on how much you throw at it, all day focused on one area, generally, maybe a couple. So you do build this, it's this exponential growth of knowledge. So it does get easier. How do you deal with the work becoming maybe not so interesting? Keep an eye on how often that happens. And if it's happening infrequently, you deal with it. When it's happening real frequently, it's, all right, now what do I do? Do I pursue other options? Okay.
I just like to pepper in things that do keep my interest during the day. Like, I'll have, one large task that's really boring, I don't want to do it, I'm dreading it, but I'll pepper in a few that I really do like, and that will keep my interest throughout the day, and I'll be like, okay, now I'll go back to that, it's okay now. So, just taking those mental breaks.
I'll take, so to go on the boredom thing, so to give everyone insight, right, if you go and get your PhD, it's no longer you take classes and you're done, right? It's like, hey, we have money to go explore research, can you come up with a novel concept and publish it, right? That's kind of the goal. So you're given an open-ended question and that becomes very monotonous and frustrating, and oh, I think this is an idea, someone did it in the 90s, right? So you're like, man, I can't catch a break, right? And how I kind of got out of that cycle of like, oh, I just got to be productive, like what Jared said, just, oh yeah, what's the difference between being productive and just being busy? So I found myself in that trap. I was like, I'm showing up every day, like this should be working, right? But what I realized was it's like, you start doing the same thing over and over again, you have to like step back and see the big picture. And I think for most like science, technical people, it's really easy to get into the details and the nitty gritty. But for me, like zooming out and just taking like 5 to 10 minutes to go get a coffee, go for a walk, right? Like just decompress, reset. That kind of gave me like more inspiration to get back into like, all right, I feel better now. Maybe like I have a new idea, maybe I don't, right? That happens too. But it's time, right? It takes time. It's not gonna happen overnight, so.
I want to add one more thing, sorry. Just to jump off of that, one more thing. The whole, getting lost in the details. We're all pretty quantitative focused, right? We've got, well, at least at some point in our lives, if we went in the engineering route, we've got some background in number crunching. Do not lose sight of the big picture. When you're starting out, oftentimes it's do this task. This is the task, it's the size of this table, we're giving you this piece of it. Do that task, and as you develop some skill sets, that will broaden. Always be asking yourself, what's the end game? Take that 10,000-foot view, it will help you in your job, and it will also just help you in your life. Take a moment to step back and examine things.
Okay. So I started my college education about 30 years too late. This is my first semester here at Middlesex. In my career, getting a college education will not get me any additional salary. I've been at the same job for almost 30 years. I do plumbing. What is the advantage of someone like me continuing to get a college education? I mean, working full-time, trying to do this full-time. Is there a reason that, that I'm not seeing to continue with this? For someone who's like not going to get specifically any more pay or anything like that? I mean, don't get me wrong, what I'm doing now, it's in these classes is great. But, what is the purpose of someone like me to continue? Maybe that I'm not thinking of.
I mean, going back to just having that degree in your pocket, it's never going to go away. If you move jobs, that's in your pocket, and maybe it is a little bit more money. But I also think just for your own benefit, like some extraneous classes I took in, I forget what it's called now, but it was like Microsoft applications, like Word and Excel and stuff. helped me so much. I kind of laughed and scoffed at the class at the time, but now I use a lot of skills that I learned from it. It was just, just the computer skills that I thought I had and didn't, so.
So I guess it's never too late.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My sole response to you is you didn't start too late.
Yeah, that's what
That doesn't exist.
So true.
You started at the right time.
Yeah, I'll just add, I have degrees in civil engineering. I went into the engineering world. I've got 2 minors that have 0 to do with engineering. One's in science and religion, and the other one's in philosophy. I'm not doing a whole lot of that right now. But those classes in those areas that are beyond your field help shape you as a person. So I'm willing to bet that, while in the field that you're in, there might not be a specific opportunity to say, hey, I now have this degree, I want the pay raise or I want the promotion. I'm willing to bet that there is information that you learned that will help you in some way, no matter how small. So the whole point of, you didn't go back too late, like being a lifelong learner is like essential for our field, but just in general is crucial to health becoming more flexible and being able to move around. That's what I would say.
I want to touch on that life learner. The life learner piece is a great piece. There's a video on YouTube that you can all go look up called, and I have to be careful as I say this, listen carefully, Shift Happens, not something else. And it's about how fast the world is changing. And there's a number of observations, among them that the average career in the United States, we're talking about possible career change when we make that implication, is 11 years. And one of the other statements made is by the time you enter your junior year in an undergraduate 4-year program, 25% of what you have learned is obviated if you are in the technical fields. You didn't start too late. We were doing plumbing back then, and I needed plumbers, and so did other people. You catch up now, it will pay off. You may not know how, there may not be a direct path, but it'll pay off.
Okay, so a question I was going to ask you guys is actually, it's similar to time management, but I guess to add more onto that, do you guys feel like that it's more time consuming to be studying, doing so many, like, of course, work when you guys were in college, or your job, would you say would be more time consuming? Like, I guess, what's the greater pressure, what's the greater burnout?
That's tough. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I love what I do, right? I'm really passionate about it. Work is kind of, in a way, yes, it's a job. I do have mundane tasks that I do not like to do. But most of the time I go into work and I'm pretty giddy about it, I'm drinking my coffee, I'm like, all right, this sounds good,
You don't need coffee.
Yeah, I don't, we're going to jam out to knowledge today, like, I'm okay with that, But at the same time, right, do I think what's more stressful? I think school is very stressful, at least for me, just because I was very grade focused, I need to do this right, it needs to be done like, X, Y, Z, and now, right, taking a step back, I'm like, oh, it doesn't have to be like that. If I were to go back, I would tell myself, go out more, go enjoy more. I think like Jared and I have spent multiple weekends together at Merrimack doing homework, right, and like doing that kind of stuff. And at the same time, I would tell you, right, focus on your academics, but also have that balance, strike a balance. And I think in the workforce, you get a little bit more of that, but there's also times where you're going to be pushing. Like your boss is going to be like, I need you to get this done, and you're the only one working on it, so it's got to get done, right? So I think there's more ebb and flow in industry than there is in academia, where it's just like you're going full throttle all the time, but maybe other panelists have a different opinion.
Look, going through school is a stressful part of your life. You're all trying to develop a skill set and you gotta get that degree, right? That's the huge, like, I want to be successful and I want to have opportunities, so I'm going to throw everything I can at this and work really hard. So there's a lot of stress there, and we all know it. The thing that you haven't seen yet is, or maybe some of you have if you're working, is what does it look like once you're through, or once you are done with that? And to Nick's point, you have those moments. So for me, I'm on my, like I said, I've gone through consulting, which is private industry, worked for DOT, public, and now I'm in academia, right? So I kind of hit, the only thing I'm missing is working in construction that I would have completed before, kind of civil engineering, the civil engineering field, right? Consulting was ridiculous, right? It was a lot of cool projects, but it was like, hey, this is due 3 days ago. So yeah, you're gonna stick around and we ran out of money, so you gotta get it done, right? It's that sort of thing. Now being a professor in academia, having been on your side and now on this side, like this is, the job I have is way more enjoyable, but the stress level is exponential because if I'm in industry and I miss a deadline, that's not good, right? I'm gonna get penalized, might not look good for me at the company. If I'm not prepared for work, there are 130 students who are not getting an education that they paid for. And that is solely on me, right? It is my responsibility to show up, right? Like my job, I'm a project manager. I need to be responsible for the work that I do. And no one's gonna be bugging me every day to say like, hey, you gotta get that thing done. Because I need to be on top of what are we gonna go over today? And if I don't have it, you guys are losing out. So it definitely depends, and it also depends on your approach to it. So I know that's probably not the black and white answer you might have been looking for, but it depends on the field. It depends on the field, excuse me, and also your kind of approach to it. So wish it could be more clear than that, but it usually is.
All right, I have a quick question. How did you guys find out if you want to stick to a technical route or move to a more management/leadership route? Did that happen gradually? How long did it take? And was there a sudden shift in responsibilities where you're not using your technical skills and focusing on a new set of skills, leadership skills that you didn't have experience on? Or how did that transition occur?
Yeah, I think that, at least for me personally, that was one of the harder transitions. I've had 14 job transitions in 41 years, and that initial transition between individual contributor/team leader up to a manager is among the harder. You take someone who's really good at, I'm not talking about me in this case, you know, that spent their life getting a PhD and they're in a basement with lasers and optics and they could sit up and dance, and all of a sudden you say, hey, I got an answer for you. It's 2 floors up, it's got a bigger office, it's got PowerPoint, Excel, presentations, sponsors, people problems, and you're like, where's polarization and wavelength? It is a difficult transition. For those of you who are, the biggest single factor is your interest. For those of you who are interested in that, I recommend branching out, as was mentioned at the other end of the table, and taking a couple of business classes as an undergraduate, because even a couple of things that you learn might help and show a future employer, hey, I've been interested in this for a long time. How do you get out of that laser basement thing when you've been doing it for 5 years and they're like, that's Doug, that's what he does. It isn't an easy transition. And I don't think you have to, the last piece I'll say is, I don't think you have to generally make that call until sometime in your 30s. When you're in your 20s, you're mostly doing individual contributor and towards team lead. Most organizations, anything above, say, 25 people, are not going to promote you into management positions when you're that young. It's not that it doesn't happen. We had one guy who made 70 people working for him at 29 years old, so it happens, but it's rare. Plan for the statistical thing. You'll be in your 30s, and if you want that, it'll take you years to work those transitions, but it can be done. I did.
what I've seen is very similar, is often in engineering or any sort of technical field, right out of the gate, you are doing technical tasks because you have been trained with a skill set in that area. It's very hard to go into management and manage people who are working on projects that you have zero experience with. So it is, you know, in the civil engineering industry, when I worked on public infrastructure projects. A lot of the clients, the DOTs, the MBTAs, the people who hire us to work on, they don't want project managers who aren't licensed PEs. They're like, you're not a licensed professional engineer? No, you can't be a project manager for us, because they want someone who's got the technical competency, who has seen the work, who has cranked through the work, been a part of a team, understands the challenges, before they say, hey, why don't you manage a group of people who are doing that? Yes, once you get promoted upwards and you decide to go on that route, I would agree, at least what I've seen is usually 10 years out of school, something like that, maybe a little less, but a 30-ish is about what I would say too. You obviously are focusing on different skill sets, right? Managing, talking with people, managing time, other people's time. But it is not, at least in our industry, what I've seen, it is not something that you need to be like, all right, graduated, and now I'm managing people. It's usually a process that you get to explore a little bit.
Sorry. So also, as just fresh out of school, right, I find myself in a position, I don't want to be managing people yet. Like, I'm still really, like, into the technical work, and, like, it's like your home, right? You're comfy there, you know, it's like, oh yeah, this is where I like to live, you know? But it's something that I don't even see for myself until years down the line, because I just have so much to learn in, like, this new job, because I'm like, oh, this isn't school anymore, right? So, yeah, I just go off that.
I got thrown into it. So people above me left for other opportunities, great opportunities, but I got thrown into it, and I could have just sent for a swim, but you know, I swam with it and tried my best. But I think if I wanted to continue down that road, I could, but I don't want to. It's just not my preference. But I think, you know, just managing your interpersonal skills for that is important.
And you often have to, sometimes you have to do the job before you're promoted into the job, right? So don't expect the title right away. If you get thrown into a situation, we need your help with this. That's a great opportunity to try it out and then see if that's something you want to do.
Right, like on that, I didn't get the job title, but I was doing the job responsibilities, so, you know, it's something I could work with, but.
MIT actually teaches a course called Leading Without Authority. You have no ability to task anybody, and you still have to lead. And in some cases, you will not be promoted unless you have shown that you can do that.
That makes a good leader. They get people on board.
The idea is, why would I trust you with the authority if you cannot show me that many other people have been able to accomplish, which is to lead without it?
I got a question for you, Professor Doug. You said earlier that our generation is going to be skipping around jobs more frequently than past generations. Why is that?
So first of all, thank you for the promotion, but I'm not Professor Doug. I think that many parts of society are changing faster than they were a generation ago, and there's no going back. These gadgets and how profoundly different your college education is with them than mine was without them. The ability to merge, say, electrical engineering and bioengineering. Biomedical was not a field when I started, and yet I've probably been operated on by somebody who's using biomedical technique. All of that stuff breeds combinatorial complexity. It doesn't take very many things to try to combine until it gets very, very hard, and that shifting around, that interdisciplinary approach matters. I don't want somebody doing biomed who only understands the biology if they're having to do some cochlear implant. They have to understand the electronics too. For those of you guys who are mechanical engineers, a colleague at one point invented a little gadget that goes onto a jet engine, and it reduced the vibration in a vane by active electronic techniques, and he could save 1% of the fuel that jet engine used. You want to go talk to somebody at Delta about how much fuel they use a year and how much money that little tiny gadget was worth. You need mechanical skills, control skills, electronic skills, and if you have worked on that project, you can now move around in those areas. In the same way that he's talking about, I'm using my words, not his, follow your passion, maybe you're running. You started on the mechanical end of that, but hey, this controls thing is pretty cool, let's go work that side. And I think it's generally a positive thing, that there aren't going to be many more of me that spent a huge amount of time in one company, not in the United States anyway.
I got another question. What is your name? Because I'm really bad with names, and I'm so sorry for that.
Oh, you got Doug correct. I'm just not professor.
Okay, okay. And I actually have one more. So for the more theoretical fields like quantum mechanics and quantum computing, you talked about how your business was lucrative. Are these fields at all lucrative? Because it's kind of make or break from what I've heard.
Those are two radically different areas. Quantum mechanics is a discipline within physics. Quantum computing, quantum cryptography, and some of those pieces are more emerging technology that people are trying to exploit and have not yet found good applications. Are they lucrative in terms of like a salary for an engineer or a potential investment on a startup? They can be extraordinarily lucrative. Artificial intelligence is also quite a lucrative area.
Do you think it's worth the risk is what I'm saying? So, you know, if you risk your entire life trying to figure out quantum computing and then it just, you know, theoretically it may work, but physically, you know, experimentally it just never works, do you think it's worth that risk?
If you personally are Usain Bolt and you do not try to run the 100-meter dash, but instead go into interpretive dance, you have made a mistake, and it doesn't matter whether the other field is lucrative or not. There's a little bit of Eastern philosophy here, but, and I sometimes call this stare at your navel. Sometimes you guys gotta go home and go, who am I gonna be? Whoever you're gonna be, think about the money some. Everybody wants to lead a nice life and be comfortable and somewhat secure, but think about what you think you would be good at and take steps quickly. Don't worry that you don't have it exact. Don't sit there and think, I'll sit here and think about this for a year and maybe I'll come across some company that, no. Dive in, try something. You'll learn way more about yourself by making 42 mistakes and 15 good decisions than you will by sitting and pondering and scratching your chin. And I'm from a place that scratches its chin way too much.
Yeah, we're all, you all, right? We're working for another, get out of school, you're working for 45 years before you retire, unless you hit the lottery, which it sounds like someone in California did. So that ship has sailed. But I can promise you that making $20,000 more a year for something you hate is not worth it.
I agree.
It just is not, right? Like, don't get me wrong, there are certain levels of money that change lives, but when you're in a career where you're like, you know, that's $10,000 more, I don't know if I'm gonna like it as much. If you got a gut feeling that you're not gonna like it, remember, you're doing this 9 to 5, probably longer for some of us, all day. Think about that sort of lucrativeness and, okay, yeah, it's like we're working for a career to make money, but this comes back to your self-worth, your self-well-being, your mental health, your physical health. Those will tank real quick if you hate what you're doing.
Yeah, and to go off that too, so I come from like, my job now is doing a lot of machine learning and going towards, you know, hey, we want to build quantum computers, you know, do training faster, there's a lot of training data. And I'll leave with this, I went to go pursue graduate school after my bachelor's degree. I had friends laughing at me 6 ways to Sunday, you can go make 20K for 4 years, you could be making 80 going right out of school. And I was like, I want to do what I like to do, you know. And
And it led me down a path of finding a job that ended up being lucrative, but it also struck a balance between being lucrative and loving what I do, right? And I think that's what's key. It's not as easy as like, let's go to Google, how much does this person make? Cool, I want to pick that for a career. Because I know people that I graduated undergrad with that tell me, I regret going to school because I hate engineering. I literally just did it for the paycheck. So I lead with, make sure you're passionate about it, because that doesn't die. Like, you're always going to be, oh, I don't like this topic, but I kind of like this. You'll find something within the big umbrella. So I would say, like, yes, we all want to live a good life. That was a great point, Doug. I agree. And just be cautious, right? Cautiously, like, hey, you know, do you like what you do? I think that's really important.
All right. Hello. I was just wondering, in the design process, how much does ethics, or whether the product should be made as opposed to could be made, come up? Just out of curiosity.
Weekly. In defense, weekly.
I agree with that. I'm with Doug. I work in defense too. It's pretty often.
I teach an intro to engineering class, and we just covered ethics. Kind of we touched on it. We have whole courses on this. Like, you know, I've got business cards up here. At the end of my name, it says PE. That, you know, that doesn't just happen. There's exams. There's technical requirements. There's work experience, and there's also an ethics component to the quiz or exam that you take. You know, any sort of fundamental engineering canon, whether it's the National Society of Professional Engineers, ASEE, IEEE, ASME, you shall hold the health, safety, and welfare of the public paramount above all else. That is number one. It's not, did the company make money? Did I get it in on time? It's, those are the things that are at the top. So while I worked on, you know, not products and widgets, but designs that went into the public roadways and bridges, the amount of processes we have to ensure that those things are happening, that we're delivering a quality product that is safe, is quite substantial, because ethics lies at the top. It might not be a daily conversation that's happening, but it is fundamentally rooted in all that we do.
I will take you through the short version of one of my favorite Tesla stories. So you're all promoted to Tesla engineers, and you're writing software to make the auto drive work. And somebody comes to you and says, here's your job, minimize loss of human life. You will make algorithms that ensure that when bad things happen, the minimum number of people die. Pretty simple requirement, engineering requirements, right? So now you give the car to a woman who is carrying her kids around, and the car comes around a corner, and it is about to plow into a large group of children, and there are 3 people in the car, and it's doing 50 miles an hour, and it's going to kill a large number of children. And so the software engineer says, here's what you do. You avoid the children and drive into the oncoming truck, killing the occupants. Now you have to sell a car to a woman which is programmed to kill her and her children under any circumstance whatsoever, and I can assure you what the answer is. Now you have to go to the software engineers and tell them something other than minimize the loss of human life. What are you going to tell them? I want to talk about an ethical dilemma. If you don't think that there are people who are living this in multiple companies today, you're mistaken.
So, a lot of you talked about the fields of engineering evolving rapidly. My question is, where do you see the most demand today, and where do you think the most demand will be 5 to 10 years from now?
I do see a large demand in building system design. There's constantly like hiring and stuff like that. There's also a lot of turnover too. People switch jobs a lot in the industry. And I think there's only going to be a larger need for sustainable engineers, you know, with that in mind. And you know, bringing ethics into it. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of opportunity, and there's change happening in the code requirements, especially in Boston, and we're like getting rid of gas. So there is need and growing need for sustainable engineering.
Thank you for the question. I think most engineering fields are going to grow. And so the question, I'm going to refine your question a little bit and say which ones will grow faster. And like mechanical engineering and cars and airplanes and trains and none of that's going away. More things are coming. But the AI, ML field is growing rapidly. Quantum is growing rapidly. Bioengineering is growing rapidly. And I still believe we haven't invented 1% of anything that will be existing in 100 years. And my wife is an actuary, and if she were here, the reason I mention that, my wife's an actuary, if she were here, she would say that many of you will see the year 2100. What a tremendous time. Think about that for a vision. What should engineering look like in 2100? I'm not sure I know what it's going to look like in 2031. But dream big. Set some of those big goals for yourself.
So yeah, great point, Doug. I think AI and ML are huge right now. Those are really like, they're high in demand, definitely. But I think also, I think computers are definitely gonna, they do their thing, absolutely. But as a theorist, I find a lot of comfort in things that have held for a long period of time, like all these theories that we learn and all this stuff from a book. Most of that stuff hasn't evolved, right, drastically over time. There's been additions to the root theory, but the root theory sets that basis, right, to expand further. So, yeah, I think for me it's really important, right, as all these fields get really, start to grow, bound yourself in the theory, right, like really set your basis strong so that you can branch outward. Also, quick aside, chip design is huge right now too, so if you know how to like program, FPGAs and stuff, let me know. Yeah, so.
Learn Verilog.
Yeah, learn Verilog ASAP. Yeah, I'm doing that.
So as Doug said, like every field is growing. It's not about what is the demand. It's about what you want to do, like what you love you can do, and what you can like grow in it and learn more and be creative and unique in it. It's not about the demand. It's you. You can do one thing like not like no one like demanded a lot, but when you have like creativity in it, you can grow and everyone gonna want it in the future. That's what I focus on.
I mean, there's not much else to add. It's a growing, the field is growing, right? I mean, the market has cooled slightly, but like not for engineering, right? Like, I use the example with my students. I say, go walk up Route 114, find me someone who's not hiring. Do it. You can't do it. Just can't. Right? So there are, for the first time in recent history, you know what? No, I'll take that back. The first time in known history that I'm aware of, we've got people from like Mass DOT and all of these engineering companies knocking on our doors saying, hey, can we come table at your engineering department so we can meet some students? Right? Basically, you go back 10 years, you wanted to get into a DOT and do civil engineering work, like this isn't an exaggeration. You had to wait for someone to die to open up a position. That is not the case anymore. They are throwing money at infrastructure left and right. But to be fair, as everyone's indicated, everything is growing, right? Civil engineering, that's my thing. But in general, everything is growing, right? AI, mechanical engineering, electrical, biomed is huge. Find what you like. Find what you like and focus on it, and opportunities will present themselves.
to his point, we recruit actively, like go to over 100 universities trying to haul in people. We're only 4,000 people.
How have you seen AI play a role in engineering careers for the better and for the worse?
Yeah, okay, great question. So for the better, it really expedites the process, right? So I think the great answer is, hey, we have training data all around us, right? This audio is technically training data, it's recorded, right? Someone could probably train a model and make my voice sound different, right? That can be done a lot faster than just hiring someone, you know, to take apart the audio, do bit by bit, right? On like, you know, your laptop. In a bad sense, what I kind of feel is going is everyone just wants a number, right? Well, what's the probability that it's like, they have things like, it's called a confusion matrix. It's like a true positive or false positive, right? So they're like, what's the percentage, right? Is it 95% confident? And sometimes that doesn't tell the whole story, right? Or sometimes the model isn't trained correctly. So what if, right, your model says, yep, you should do this today. But when you do that today, something bad really happens, right? Maybe it's not trained enough. So I think it's one of those things you have to have the knowledge to, you know, base yourself in so that you can make that informed judgment. Because I think it's easy to just be like, it's a pretty picture, right? Oh look, it's a beautiful 2D matrix, right? Finite element analysis, the first time I did something on that, it's like this beautiful rainbow picture, and you're like, oh, it's beautiful. You realize your strain is unitless, and it's like times 10 to the 12, and you're like, that doesn't make any sense, right? So things like that, you know, just making sure that you have that kind of feedback and that check.
I'll give you a very short follow-on to a previous comment. Tesla's AI has killed people, and those are recorded. Tesla's AI has also saved people that would have had an accident if they were driving themselves. And those success stories are not well recorded.
What would you say your enjoyment of your job has? How would you say your enjoyment of your job has changed over time?
Yeah.
So, job enjoyment, how has it changed over time? As I joke, the joke is that I never really left Merrimack, right? So I got my degree there and went into industry, right? They're all laughing, they know. I went into industry, I stayed heavily involved as an alumni and then, and as an alumni, but also within the engineering department. You know, like I said, I haven't worked this hard at any other job in my life, and it's a lot, and there's a lot of stress because there's a lot on the table, right? We are trying to shepherd you all along with skill sets that will help you succeed, right? You are cultivating where you want to go, and we try to help be the shepherds of information. So it's a stressful job, but I love it because I get to interact with people a lot more, right? I love doing design work, right? I do a lot less number crunching now as I'm more focused on teaching classes, etc. But those skill sets gave me a lot of good opportunities to cultivate what I'm doing now. But I love what I'm doing now because I actually have a lot more input on how things are done. Interacting with students and it is a cliche that people hear all the time, like, oh, well, what's the best thing? It's getting to work with a student and seeing that they get it, right? You've hit that switch, right? Like Nick and I have been there, right? Everyone who's taught or gone through a degree, right? And finally say, that makes sense after all that time. And watching that light bulb go off is worth making the shift for me. So it's gone up for me. But like with everything, you have this, right? The ebbs and flows. It's what's the sum total, right? If overall it's enjoyable, but you're exhausted and you love doing what you do, it's all much of us can ask for.
What do you guys believe is the most important skill to practice in college to prepare yourself for your future career?
I already answered this one. There's three things. Work hard, think clearly, learn quickly. These projects that you're doing, when you get a homework assignment, Professor Alguera gives you a homework assignment and he wants it due next Friday, do you think that that's somehow massively different than a boss telling you, I need that beam designed by next Friday? You're gonna have to learn some stuff to do it that you don't know at the start. It's not that different. And those 3 skills are the most important thing that you can get out of an undergraduate education.
The stick-to-itiveness, the go-get-em, right? Like, I gave an assignment in class the other day, it was using Microsoft Excel. And a student raised their hand and said, I don't know how to use Microsoft Excel. But that's the point. That is exactly the point. So how do you tell yourself, okay, I'm given a task that I don't know how to do, in school, at work? That will happen, by the way. Like, I worked for 5 or 6 years. I did the same thing once, and I remember it, like, oh, I did this, right? Because usually it's new stuff. So it's how can you build the drive in you to say, all right, I need to figure out how to do this. I need to figure out the questions to ask. I need to start the ball moving. If you stay stagnant, nothing will happen. So kick the ball in a direction and learn how to adjust. But it's that go-get-em attitude. It's that hard work.
All right, so we're gonna have just one more question, and then after that, you guys can approach to the panelists if you wanna talk to them or on a personal side, so.
Hi, I was just wondering, do you believe that you've reached the peak of your career? And if so, what did you do that you accomplished that makes you look back and say all of this was worth it? And if not, what steps are you taking to get there, and what goals and dreams do you still have to accomplish?
Great question.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Maybe. 3 or 4 big things that I've done. A very large network. I was involved in some post 9/11 activity that I'm very proud of. Some of the satellite work. I don't think, some people get lucky and their best project that they ever get in their life is to found Microsoft when they're 19 years old and they become a billionaire by the time they're 21. There's one of those. I wasn't that lucky. Maybe you get your big hit when you're in your 20s and it propels you for the rest of your career. Anybody know who Mark Andreessen is? He invented this little thing called the World Wide Web. Sold it in his early 20s for $100 million. But probably not. As you go on in your career, statistically, most of you will get, as you show yourself capable in smaller assignments, you will get medium ones. And as you show success in those medium ones, you will get larger ones. So very often, sometime in your 50s, you have your biggest impact. Me, they're just looking to put out to pasture, get along with them.
I don't know, that's a hard question. I think it's really easy for someone to look at you on paper and be like, look at how much they did, right? And introspectively, I feel like I just started. I'm so hungry, I still have the fight in me. So I'm like, yeah, I did that, I did school for a long time. I'm really good at being a student. That's what it says to me, right? But that's one thing. So to me, I'm like, I have so much left to go. And I think another thing I'm really proud of is I can go back, right, and teach, right, the next generation of engineers and inspire them to go out and make an impact. Because I think it's cool to have young professors in the classroom because I feel like they have more of a, hey, this is fresh, this is new, this isn't me reciting the same lecture that I've done for 38 years, right? So I try to inject that passion into my class because inspiring the next group that's, right? You guys are gonna go out into the world and I'm gonna be 5, 10 years, right, ahead of you, but you're gonna have new, fresh ideas that I probably will never have. So, yeah, I think that's really cool, but yeah, I'm a work in progress, trust me. I got a lot to work on, so, yeah.
So it was just to make sure I have it all. It's have you reached the peak of your career and what do you attribute that to? I just want to make sure I have it right.
Yeah. Well, if you feel you have, what was it that made you think this was all worth it and this is this is it, like I did this thing that I worked so hard towards? And if not, like what are you still hoping to accomplish and how do you plan to get there?
So for me, I don't think that I have, lifelong learner, right? I have not reached the like pinnacle of what I'm doing. I will tell you that in hindsight, the fact that I landed back at Merrimack College to teach the place that I loved and still love, that was a like, this is it, man. You got through all of that. You stuck around, got a master's degree, which as a side note, I would not have been able to teach where I am without it. Grinded through that, got industry experience, an opportunity knocked, you went after it, and now you are colleagues with the people who taught you. Like that for me, that's gonna be kind of hard to top, but within that, there is still growth, and there are still opportunities within that. So there is an aha moment of, that's awesome. Like, I love that I ended up there. But there is still that continuing growth there that I'm looking forward to.
I think for me, it's just keep coming, so I'm not sure where the peak is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just keep working with what you want to work towards. And you're going to be really proud of yourself one day, and personally, I've had a few of those days where I'm very proud of myself for what I've accomplished. But yeah, I don't think that it's the top of the mountain or anything like that. I think just keeping my head down and keep like day after day, I want to do this, I want to do that. I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Will get me towards the future.
I haven't met some of these people too well yet, but I think I can make a general comment, which is, like, I don't think we all had it planned out right at the gate, right? Like not to get too philosophical, but this is like, life is this winding road, and then you kind of land on a track that you like, and you decide to go off in that direction. So don't think like there was no way I thought that I was gonna end up back where I ended up. A lot of other people did, they're like, yeah, we know this is gonna happen, but I'm glad that I did, but just, it takes you in some direction, so roll with it. Roll with it and see how you like it. If it doesn't end up what you like being, course correct. Keep driving it, right? You're gonna be doing work for a long time, you're gonna be in careers for a long time. Ensure you enjoy it. Money's important, enjoyment is more important.
So I would say the sky has no limit. So there is no point like you're gonna be like, I achieved everything. You're gonna keep, if you're a passionate person, you're gonna keep growing, and you're never gonna stop learning, So whatever you achieve, you're gonna have, when you get there, you're gonna have more to achieve. So that's all I can say.
Thank you so much. So we have a few closing remarks before we end the event, but the most important one is that we have a lot of pizza. On the way out, grab a pizza. We have pies, cookie pies, and everything. Just grab as many as you wish. We don't like throwing out food or anything. So on your way out, make sure you do that. Let's just give a big round of applause to our amazing event, and it shows, as a conclusion, that we all were at some point on this side of the table, and then now they're here with us. This is the kind of relationships that will take you somewhere else. So in a few years, I will call each one of you so I can bring you to the panels and keep up with the next generation. So good evening, everyone, and I hope to see you next year. Okay?